Welcome to Caring Well.
Welcome to Caring Well.
Welcome to Caring Well.
Welcome to Caring Well.
Caring Well. Welcome to Caring Well.
Welcome to Caring Well.
Welcome to Caring Well, a Middleton Pediatrics podcast where we have conversations to help you care well for your child. Today we have a conversation with Micki Meyer. She's an assistant vice president and dean at Rollins College, and our conversation is about helping you prepare your kid for a great college experience. So let's go to that conversation. Micki Meyer, thank you so much for being on Caring Well. I'm really excited about you being here. We are going to spend a lot of time talking about getting your child ready for college and what that looks like, what college readiness looks like. But before we get into any of that, would love to hear a little bit about you, your background, and how you ended up in the role that you're currently in.
Sure. First, happy to be here. I'm a big fan. I might be a super fan of the podcast.
Well, thank you.
And when we think about those traditions at the beginning of the year, I guess I can share a story with you that I was thinking about. When I have my sign on the first day of school in August, it will say my 30th first day of college. So I have been on a college campus for 30 years. That includes my time as a student, a graduate student. I'm originally from upstate New York. I went to a school, SUNY Fredonia, as an undergraduate. My master's is in was at Bowling Green State University in college student personnel. So really, ultimately, I learned and spent all of my time thinking about how students learn, develop, and grow between 18 and 25. Came down to Central Florida in 2001 to work at the University of Central Florida and to lead a leadership program. So part of my background is in leadership studies, and then went over to Rollins 20 years ago in August. So I've spent my entire career understanding students, understanding what motivates them, how they're wired, how to work with them. And even though there's been differences over the generations, there are some things that are still connected and true between students who are going to be starting college this year and students who started college 20 years ago.
So you had clarity about at least some clarity about what you wanted to do early on.
I did. I fell in love with college. So as a student, I went to a small private high school, a Catholic all-girls high school, was very involved on campus, but I was really closely bonded, I would say, with my mom and my family because my father passed away when I was young. And I knew I wanted to go away, but I knew I didn't want to go that far away, but I really didn't even want to go away. And I remember when my mother was driving me to campus, I cried the entire way to orientation and to move-in. And when she left, I looked around and I thought, well, now what do I do? And when she came to pick me up for Thanksgiving, I cried all the way home because I didn't want to leave. So I really found my sense of self and purpose in college. I was able to clarify values and get involved on campus. And learning became more real, where I felt like learning in high school was very much about knowledge transmission. College was about knowledge creation. And I knew that was something that really spoke to who I was as a learner. And then I thought, gosh, I could work on a college campus for the rest of my life. And that's what I decided to do.
As far as where you are now, give us what is your current role?
Well, my title at Rollins is I'm the Lord Family Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs and Engagement and Dean of Rollins Gateway. So
okay.
I'll break down what that means.
Let's unpack that.
Lord Family, I'm an endowed chair at Rollins, which means that a donor gave funding to the college to ensure that there was a position focused on engagement and community. Assistant Vice President of Student Affairs, which means that I work in the student affairs area of the institution. So college and universities have large structures. You have academic affairs, which oversees the curriculum. You have alumni engagement, you have athletics, you have fundraising, you have finance. Student affairs educators are responsible for how students learn, develop, and grow in campus life. So I'm an assistant vice president overseeing that work. And for engagement. And so engagement are a lot of the programs on college campuses that help students find their meaning and their purpose. So everything from career and life planning, so helping students get involved in internships, externships, job opportunities, to civic engagement, helping them make meaning of what's happening in the community, voting, to campus involvement, so fraternity and sorority life, to student organizations, social impact and entrepreneurship. So thinking about global problem solving and applying that to their major in the world. So I oversee, they're called, it's experiential learning, or they're also called high impact practices. And research shows on a college campus, those experiences are the differentiators for students to make meaning of what they're learning in the classroom, put it into practice so that they're prepared for life after college and careers.
So our parents obviously are parents of kind of infant to 18. And so we do want to sort of speak to what does it look like to prepare your child for college? So a couple things there. One would be even defining what college readiness might look like. And maybe as just a box to check before we get into some of the deeper stuff. This is summer. There's a lot of kids that are about to start college imminently. So what would you say to those parents as far as here are some things you can do to help last minute or even first semester for these college freshmen?
So college readiness, I think about as a set of values, skills, and behaviors that help prepare you for college and campus life. You're going to hear me talk a little bit about campus life because there are students and listeners whose children are going to be going to school online, and students are going to be commuting, or students are going to be living residentially. So knowledge, skills, and values, behaviors that prepare students to be prepared for college life. For those families whose students are going to college, especially for their first, this is so exciting. It's such an exciting time. I live for this. I've seen it for 30 years. It's awesome. And one of the things I realize is it takes so much to prepare your child just to apply for college, get into college, graduate high school, go through all the graduation parties. And then it's like, oh gosh, we have 6 weeks and they're going to be moving in the next 6 weeks. So these are some things that I share with my friends or families all the time. I think the first thing, let's just talk about maybe the first 6 weeks on a college campus. What do you need to be thinking about or doing? Well, the first thing, let me speak specifically to the families who are going to be moving their students in. Have low expectations that day. If you think about the emotional impact, the anxiety, the fear, it reminds me a little bit about like the first day of kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the first day of kindergarten?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
I do. I
Okay.
cried. I mean, all the parents are there. They want to walk their kids to the front door. You've got kids who are crying. You've got kids that are like, Mom, leave me alone. This is really a passing, or let's think of it. It's like a transition moment, just like that kindergarten moment for many kids. And all the feelings are there. So I find that if you have a low expectation for how your child might behave that day and recognize they're going to feel their feelings and to feel comfortable, that's going to help them realize it's all about them that day. Something that I've seen over the years is that parents are often driving the ship that day. They want to set up their child's room. They've picked out all of their things. Let your child take the lead that day. Your room doesn't need to be set up in the first day. There's Walmart and Target generally down the street in most college town. Now there's Amazon. Let them take the lead. If they ask you for help, jump in, but really let them be the drivers of that experience. Talk about a game plan before you drive up to campus or before you get into the room. The first thing everyone always says is, I didn't realize how small this room is going to be. Oh my gosh. Where's the roommate going to be? How do we bunk the beds? There's not enough room in the closets. All of this is very normal and okay. But the one thing I will say is let your student drive that day in those conversations and try to detach yourself from some of the emotional responses and behaviors.
That's such a good word. Just this idea. Don't make it about, don't inadvertently make it about yourself as the parent. Not that anyone would do it intentionally.
Right.
But that let it be about them. This is their beginning as opposed to my goodbye. Right.
We all want the best for our kids. We all want them to have a beautiful space, a comfortable, safe space to be in. But we may have a different idea of what that looks and feels like than a student does. Let them drive it. Take a lot of breaks that day. Give them time to bond with their roommate or roommates. Just try to take a back seat. Like I think about, the guy, there's the sage on the stage and the guide on the side. Guide on the side. Parents should be the guide on the side that day and have low expectations. The second thing I would say is, especially if you're a first-time parent whose student is going to college, if the school offers a session for parents or an orientation for parents, go. The instinct might be, oh, I'm tired, I'm sweaty, I just want to go home. Or maybe even your students say, Mom, just leave, Dad, just leave. I think it's important to go to build community and get perspective, to hear what the administrators have to say, to understand where the resources are. Again, not to be telling your student exactly what to do, but to be a resource when those phone calls start to come in. The other thing I notice is that a lot of times parents and caregivers will meet other parents and caregivers and start to build their own community. Similar to the peer conversations, they might see a parent who's bringing their 5th child to school and they can ask them for advice. Those spaces are really powerful and they're very, a lot of parents are very vulnerable and most of the time the student isn't going to be with you. So make sure that you go. If there's an orientation before that for parents, make sure, meaning before you move in, make sure you go to that. Any resources that you can have, I think, is really important because you start to build a set of tools. So when your student says, Mom, I need this, or Dad, I need this, you can say, well, have you tried this hammer? Have you tried this screwdriver? Not giving them the hammer or the screwdriver right away, but you become a resource for your students, which is really important.
Any particular maybe fall semester red flags if you were a parent and you're in a different city? And what are things that, as a parent, should be something that should maybe make me a little more concerned or lean in a little bit?
Well, I will tell you, the up and down of emotions is very normal. You may think those are red flags. They're actually a very normal part of the process and the development. We actually call it the W curve on college campuses. And you start with this feeling of euphoria and excitement, fear, but excitement, and I can redefine who I am and I can create a new identity. I'm meeting these people. They're so cool. This is so great. Then the first day of classes start and it's like, oh, okay, this is tough, but it's good. And then a couple weeks later, I don't really like my roommate. We're fighting. The food stinks. I'm really homesick. So this is normal. Those aren't red flags. And I will tell you, where it kind of hits the bottom is October 15th.
Okay.
So the research shows that around October 15th, around fall break, that's why colleges have fall breaks, and they let the students go away and go home, things start to really hit because that's when midterms hit for the first time, especially for first-time college students. They start to realize I may not be doing as well as I want. Maybe a relationship, an intimate partner relationship back home. A lot of times relationships will break up between October 15th and Thanksgiving if they're in a relationship. They might realize things about their roommates that they're not connecting. So that's normal too. Let me tell you the red flags. The red flags are my child contacts me and calls me all the time, is not able to engage in basic decision making, or I have not heard from my child in 2 weeks or more. Those to me would be real red flags. The next thing I think would be a red flag is if you do have a student that is struggling with any sort of mental or physical challenges, you need to make sure that you're hearing from them more often. Because a lot of times I think people think your child goes to college, they're grown and flown. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Those things can really intensify when they come onto a college campus. And so you have to be really tuned in to that. Unfortunately, when it relates to academics, you probably aren't going to know as a parent. So I'm going to explain something called FERPA. It stands for the Federal Education Right to Privacy Act. Think about this as the education's form of HIPAA, which means that when a student turns 18 years old, we, by law, are beholden to protect their academic and social information. So one of the questions I always get at orientation is, when can we check their Canvas page? You can't. We can't give that information to you. If a student gets in trouble around drugs or alcohol, and they're pretty minor offenses, you're not going to find out. If it deals with harm to self or others or hospitalization, generally the school, well, it depends on the school, will call the parent. So unfortunately, you may not know the red flags. I think you just have to tune in and ask the right questions. Students can waive their rights. And in orientation, they generally talk about the waivers, but the student has to go in and click the boxes, which means that if there is a major issue, so on a small school, like the small school I work at and that you went to, there are times where the advisor may call the parents and say, I haven't seen your student in 2 weeks or even in a week. I'm concerned. If there is a serious issue, colleges are generally going to do the right thing, which means they're going to call the parents. If it's a hospitalization, if it's a transport because of drugs or alcohol, if there's serious suicidal ideation, parents are going to be looped in. One of the questions I get a lot is about Life 360 and tracking students. I want to talk a little bit about that. It's really hard. We come off making sure we know mostly our students' every move, and especially for those students who go off to college. I think there's a real instinct to see and know what they're doing all the time. I would encourage parents to start to wean themselves from that probably June, July, and August. First, I think it can drive you mad because you might not know the college campus or where the student is. And second, it doesn't give your student the independence that they really need. I think checking in once in a while makes sense. That's probably what I'm going to do. But you could drive yourselves mad. We do get calls from parents that say, I've checked 360. My student hasn't left their room in a couple of days. That's a concerning issue, but a lot of times we actually find that their phone is dead. It's in their book bag. They're not carrying it on campus. It will drive you mad when your student is on a college campus and is 18 years old, and this is the time they may not come home to their room at night, or they may not be at the library studying at 10 o'clock. This is the developmental journey. This is when they become more fully grown and more fully human, and you will drive yourself mad.
One of the things we talk about just with anxiety in general is exposure to things over which you have no control is going to produce anxiety. And so the application often is when not just young people, but older people too, but aware of world events over which you have no control, then that's just a recipe for anxiety. But it's true in this situation too. Knowledge of them not being home at 2 a.m. or whatever, and you have no control over that, is just probably going to make you angst about it.
And I say all these things with a lot of humility because I know it's really hard. We're in a very different world than when you and I went to college. And this constant need for support on text around decision-making and discernment, if we take that away, especially from our 18-year-olds, when are they going to learn it? When are they going to, these are the moments that are really important to stand on the side and be the guide.
So you mentioned some maybe things that the parents should be doing these early 6 weeks. And what about the students themselves? If you were coaching the students who are just embarking upon college, what would you say are some key things for starting well?
I believe that every new student needs to have a 6-week plan.
Okay.
And a 6-week plan makes you think about your academics, your well-being and wellness, and your social. So academics, we know that students are going to be taking classes that are going to be very different than they had before. Even if they took dual enrollment in high school, college classes are very different. They're going to receive a syllabus. The syllabus is going to outline what's due, when it's due, et cetera. So the first thing that's going to be really important after that first week is for your students to have a plan to be organized, to making sure that they have a place to put all those syllabus and start to plot when everything is due onto a calendar. So they have a full look at what the semester, even if it's not the full semester, I would say the first 6 weeks. What is due? So they can start to really think about their time and time management. And we can talk a little bit more about executive functioning in a bit around that. The second thing is I would encourage every single student to go to the Get Involvement Night or the Student Activities Night. Every college has it. It's usually in the first 2 weeks where all the student organizations come together, whether that's fraternities or sororities. And some students will go through that before classes start through recruitment or rush. But it's the intramural sports and start to make connections and getting involved. Even if it is one thing, getting involved. The next thing in your 6-week plan, I would encourage you to talk to your student. They might think this is corny, but to look everybody in the eye and say hi on the campus. You're all a part of a big community and getting to know one another. Everybody's in the same boat. Maybe everybody's showing it a little bit differently, but looking people in the eye and saying hi is really important. The next thing is every student needs to make a plan to see every professor in the first 6 weeks in their office hours. And I would encourage that to actually happen in the first 2 weeks. Now, I know for students who are online, that might look very different than students who are on campus in person. Even if it's going to the professor and saying, I just want to introduce myself. I'm really excited about the content of this course, and I'm a hard worker. It could be something as simple as that. But when the professor has their eyes on you and knows your motivation, they're going to be more inclined to start to build that relationship with you. The next thing is having a health and wellness plan, putting your exercise into your calendar and thinking about your food and your food choices. And we can start to talk about that in the 6 C's. But those things are going to be really important to set up for the first 6 weeks of success. So thinking about your academics, putting everything on the calendar, when it's due, how it's due, having everything organized. Number 2, getting involved in at least one thing on campus, if it's an intramural, if it's a student club or organization, and then having a wellness plan. Even if it's working out two days a week or some sort of physical activity, these are the things that are going to set those first 6 weeks up for success.
Obviously, there's someone who has looked into what are metrics or indicators of college student flourishing, studied, and so you're in that world. Share what some of those findings have been. What does that look like? What's been discovered?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a secret sauce.
Okay.
So Purdue University partnered with Gallup about 12 years ago and did the largest study on college graduates in the country. There were 3 million college graduates in the study, and they looked at flourishing. They looked at happiness and career success, and they were able to distill this to 6 things that young people can do on a college campus to have greater career success, happiness, and flourishing. The first thing is, did I have one professor that cared about me as a person and knew my name?
One during the 4, ideally
one
more,
during
but
the
one
4
during
years.
the 4 years.
Correct.
Okay, great.
One during the 4 years.
Okay.
Number 2, did I have a professor that made me excited about learning?
Okay.
Number 3, did I have a mentor or somebody that I can look up to? Number 4, did I work on a project that took a semester or more to complete?
Okay.
Number 5, did I have an internship? And number 6, was I very, very involved in extracurricular activities, including intramurals, on a sports team, student organization like SGA, religious life. So those are the 6. They're actually called they're called Gallup's Big 6. But here's something that's really interesting. Only 6% of those in the study had 3. Only 6% of those in the study had 3.
So those first 3, well, the first 2 really are the results, are kind of the fruits of some of what you mentioned earlier about go meet your professor, and everyone won't turn into one of those significant relationships, but if one does, or so that's a fruit of that. That's interesting. And then I'm just going through those in my mind and the significance of it. The third one, such a life lesson. We all need mentors. 4 and 5 almost are the idea of deep work and things that are big investments of energy that you saw turn into something
Correct.
worthwhile.
Yes. Like a research.
Yeah.
Did you do research when you were in school?
Yes, we did. I mean, it was somewhat required. And then a lot of mine was through some Greek life, some kind of almost longitudinal over a whole year initiatives that we were trying to do, even more than stuff through school. But those were things you felt like were committing energy to that you were able to see pay off over a long period of time.
And think about that from a cognitive and a psychosocial developmental space. You're engaged, you're failing, you're building resilience, you're building teamwork with other people, you're understanding difference. Those are the real learning moments that we want young people, our young adults, to engage. And I told you that 6% had 3. Only 3% had all 6.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, when I share this data with groups, that tracks. So different schools prioritize different things. And you would think that this is the secret sauce, like colleges have access to this information, that they would make sure that these are the big priorities of the school. But unfortunately, it doesn't always unfold that way on college campuses. Faculty pick schools for different reasons. Some pick because they want to teach. Some pick because they want to engage in research. Schools that are really large, you have to be earnest and self-motivated to find those mentors and to find those professors. You have to be self-motivated to join a student or a student organization. Schools who are doing it right embed this into the curriculum, because every student has to take a curriculum, so they embed it so that it's unavoidable. You know, getting involved in a project that takes a semester or more to complete becomes unavoidable. Making sure that your academic advisor could also serve as a mentor for you becomes unavoidable. But that's the secret sauce. And when people ask me, what's the one thing I wish that every student knew? It's those 6.
Yeah. And again, wonder how many of those, what seeds could you plant while they're still in your home about the importance of these things? Some of those things are, even as you're saying them, I'm thinking they are almost done by design for you throughout high school. And then you're left to go to college and figure it out on your own. And I mean, obviously colleges are trying to take the initiative, but you would want as a parent, because I mean, again, the listeners to the podcast, are there things I could be doing that would declare the importance of those things?
Absolutely. So I want to share with you, it's another 6, a framework that I've been really like reflecting on and creating over time. These are iterative and evolving set of questions, skills, values, behaviors that you need to start to plant in middle school. So the first, I guess, frame conversation.
So 6 C's.
There's 6.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 6 of them. 6
Great.
C's is curriculum. And this is the obvious one. A curriculum in college looks very different than a curriculum in high school. Curriculum in college, many times, a lot of times, it's a bit more project-based. There's a lot of critical thinking and discernment that has to go into it. Students have to be actively engaged in the learning process, where in high school, sometimes it's very much a regurgitation of information. College is the creation of information and really an attainment of information. So getting students to think about knowledge for the love of knowledge, that's hard. I think that's hard. But if you can start to engage students in conversations around knowledge, not just to have it, but how to use it, how to hold it, how to leverage it for the next thing, I think that's really important. We talked about curriculum in a college campus as it relates to even everything from executive functioning and syllabi. Every faculty member is different in how they give information. Very different from high school. So even starting to have the conversations with your student, that college curriculum looks and feels different. But I also find that college curriculum allows the student to fully engage the work that they love and that they're passionate about. Colleges are most colleges are structured with 3 different areas of the curriculum. your major or your minor, your electives, and your general education program. Unless you're at a technical college, that's pretty much it. And it's usually a third, and a third. And the differentiator from college to college is actually that general education curriculum. That's the curriculum that we hope creates a holistic person. Just even making sure that students, your children understand these are the things that unfold as it relates to around curriculum. And making sure that your student starts to take charge of their learning. And this kind of builds on some of the podcasts around middle school. There is a failure and a resilience around learning and taking ownership for learning and grades that really needs to happen before college. One of the things that we're seeing because of COVID is that there was so much flexibility and fluidity around deadlines and handing things in. It's still this way in high school. Students come to college and think that deadlines aren't in this. They think, oh, can I hand this in a couple of days? And it's a real big awakening that, no, you can't. Deadlines in college are different. Things have not shifted and evolved that much as it relates to higher education. So questions around love of learning, making sure they understand the college curriculum may look and feel very different, can get them excited and start thinking about and imagining themselves and what it would look like to be in college.
Are you familiar with Blessing of a B-, Wendy Mogul?
No, I'm not.
So she's written 2 books, and we've probably referenced on this podcast. The one's called The Blessing of a Skinned Knee, and it's a lot about raising children in resilience. But the one about adolescence is Blessing of a B-. And in there, she talks a decent amount about allowing appropriate risk taking. And there's inappropriate risk taking, but there's appropriate risk taking. And that has to happen during those years while they're still at home so that they're prepared for appropriate risk taking once they leave the home. And as it relates to academic things, it's going to be allowing them to own their academic journey somewhat, even during middle school and high school.
I absolutely agree. Because it won't be such a rude awakening. It's going to be still hard, but it won't be such a rude awakening. So that's the first C that I talk about. And that's the obvious one, is curriculum. The second is care. And the second one is the one that could potentially be the greatest differentiator around thriving, persistence, and success at college. Does your student know how to care for self and care for others? So that can mean everything from, does your student know how to make healthy choices around food, exercise, and sleep, to substances, to exercise, to asking for help and advocating for themselves, to know when things are rough and to really ask for help, and do they know how to make decisions? Care for others a lot of times has to do with consent. And this is a big thing on a college campus, that parents don't spend enough time talking with their children about consent around intimate partner relationships. What does consent look like? What does consent look like when there's drugs or alcohol involved, which is unfortunately where we see some challenges and issues. But if we think about our case management load, the students who are really suffering, it has to do with the inability to care for self or care for others. Because maybe caregivers, family have never held them accountable to doing that.
Too much done for them. Even everything from not knowing how to do their laundry. Middle school students should be doing their own laundry. Even if there's people who help you do your laundry, middle school students should be doing their own laundry. These are the things that you need to be doing now before students go off. So care, a genuine sense of care for self, understanding when things are, asking for help is a big issue with college students. Interesting. You could imagine, and I want us to keep rolling, but you could imagine that's something that could contribute to a sense of overwhelm that shouldn't have to. I mean, that's a skill that shouldn't be contributing to the overwhelm they feel in college.
Mm-hmm. You mean laundry?
Yeah, that all those things become cumulative, and those are things that there's enough that potentially might feel a little overwhelming, even like academic load and new relationships. But certainly these basic things shouldn't be contributing to that pile. Yeah.
So we think about grown and flown. There's a launch period in the middle. The launching period really needs to start in 8th grade, in 9th grade. And it can be a long on-ramp. So as you said, so it doesn't seem so overwhelming or disorienting once they go to college. And for some of the listeners, this might seem like, well, of course it's obvious, but I will tell you, I sit with a lot of people and they think they're going to squeeze everything into the last month. And it does, not that it doesn't work, but you want to set your child up for success. Curriculum and career, those conversations need to happen early on if your student is interested in going to college.
Yeah.
Or curriculum and care.
Care. One of the things we say about when we have such great parents, you being such an example in our practice, and our parents, the mistakes are things done too much. It's not stuff it's not the neglect.
Right.
It's the too much that is done, the too much done for them, whether it's too much involvement with grades, too much involvement with friendships, too much involvement. And so some of what you're saying is a call to do less and let them appropriate risk taking.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Especially while they're under your roof.
That's right.
This is the best time for them to do it. And I share this with all humility because as a parent, it is really hard.
Oh, so hard.
We want to set our children up for success.
It's hard to watch them make a decision will have some cost that that you could somehow prevent.
It's gut-wrenching.
Right?
It doesn't feel good.
No, but
we know that through the struggle creates strength. And that's the care conversation that needs to happen early on. The third is it's communication. So this goes back to this idea of reading and writing and communicating. Your student needs to be able to communicate and advocate in developmentally appropriate ways before they go to college. We have students who've never been able to make a phone call to a doctor to set up an appointment, to send an email to a professor that's a professional email. Look a person in the eye and shake their hand and introduce themselves, or even be able to effectively monitor their own social media consumption, etc. So communication and making sure that they have those tools to be good communicators is really, really important. And, a lot of people say, well, because of COVID, we've lost some of our way in this regard. I think so. I still continue to put the onus on our digital communication, and the fact that we're constantly asking for something to give us entertainment and attention, so our brains don't have to work. But the best communicators are the ones who are going to be most successful when things are tough, when they need to talk to a professor, when they need to make an appointment. It is it's a real issue because parents have done those things for their students. And they come and they don't know how to do them. And I'll tell you, college curriculum does not teach students how to write a formal email or how to make a phone call. That needs to happen in the home before students.
And there's so many practical, thinking even of a relatively young child ordering for themselves at a restaurant. Looking at the server and speaking to them, they can do that, right? They can, or you need to write the email. I'll look it over before you send it, but you've got to write this email. Those are very basic things. They do take more time. And I think in addition to the digital onslaught, I think there's also a little bit of an epidemic of too busy, families too busy. And when you're busy, you just don't take the time to do these little mini lessons all along the way. But anyway, that's me preaching a little bit.
No, I agree. It is a lot of little things, a lot of time, as opposed to the long lectures. I think that's really what works, or role modeling or showing or sending your child an email. One of the things I try to do is send my son a reflection at the end of the year, like a really nice email reflection that he can save, but to show him this is how you can create an email and you can express yourself in that way. It's the number one complaint we get of faculty is that students are unable to communicate their needs to them. So communication is the third C. The fourth C is community. When students are going into, even if they're commuting or they're going into an online community, they're going to be engaging with people who are different than them. And the number of students that we see who have kind of grown up in a bubble and have never met somebody who is from a different religion, identity, race, class, etc. We're taking people from all different walks of life and bringing them onto a college campus and asking them to build community together. So making sure that your students have experience with people who are different than them, that you're having conversations as it relates to culture, to religious difference, to political difference in your home. And that difference is good. Difference is what makes communities strong, where you learn and you grow. And also making sure that you know that you're a part of a community, that your actions and behaviors are bigger than yourself. So those behaviors and experiences, preparing them in high school for that. Number 5 is curiosity. Okay. This is obvious. I mean, college is about the journey. It's about being curious. It's about thinking not just what your major is going to be, but what is your mission? What is your goal? Critical thinking as it relates to academics, as it relates to knowledge creation, to exploring and doing different things, to taking risks, to joining a group or playing an intramural that you may have never thought that you were popped to do, or to run for student government. Making sure that students have a sense of wonder. Your children have a sense of wonder and curiosity. That's role modeled. I believe that's role modeled by the parents, and students pick that up. And then finally, the 5th is career, but I like to think of 6. I'm sorry, the 6th is career, but I think of that career, I say career/calling, because it's not just about what you're going to do after you graduate, but it's who you are. We know students are going to change their job unless you're going into medicine. That's pretty standard, but students are going to change their job probably. I mean, it says between like 5 and 10 times their careers. But who they are, that calling, that sense of purpose is really what continues to stay. I think that's role modeled at home too. But starting to get your children to think about, what are your strengths? What are the possibilities? What do you think you want to do? The red flag would be students either not knowing because they're not interested. That would be the red flag. But if there's a million things they want to do, that's not a red flag. I think that's really exciting. So those are 6 conversations.
On that last one, do you have a favorite tool, personality assessment type of thing for young adults, teenagers that you think is helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it may be a little bit too advanced for teenagers, but teenagers who are ready. The Stanford D School has a book called Designing Your Life. Have you read it before? I read it,
yeah, it's great.
It's awesome. I mean, there's 3 different paths. Because life isn't going to be one path. So I think getting them to think through that and to read that book would be great.
Yeah, just for our listeners. I mean, I think that and you correct me, but the gist of that being these design engineers would say, look at your life sort of like the iPhone, that the iPhone you hold now is very different than what they first got out, but they got it out. You experiment, you evaluate, and then you iterate and change. And it's okay that you can keep trying things, evaluate them, and then try something else. And such a great, as opposed to trying to have the perfect product at initial release, meaning trying to have your first job be your career. That was a very freeing concept, actually.
Absolutely. I think that's great. The other, obviously personality assessments, Strengths Finder, Strength Quest is a great one when you have your top 5 and it's like, these are my top talents. And once you kind of start to discern and understand who you are, it opens up to what I can be and what I can do. I love the Enneagram. Yeah. I think it's great. And I think it relates to young people because they start to get another insight into who they are.
Some language for understanding yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And even it's almost like Strengths Finder is a formal way to do what that person did for you in college. Like, I think you could be a leader. To have the Strengths Finder come back and say, you're really good at. But one of the things we talk about with our own kids, but also here is that, someone may say, oh, I just love preschool kids. And like our daughter did that one time when she took a class. I was like, just so you know, everybody doesn't feel that way. And so you may think, oh, everybody loves. It's like, no, they don't. And so that may be some insight into what you may want to do. Because I think my point is people think the things that they come naturally to them or that they're good at, well, everybody feels that way. It's like, no, that's not true.
Isn't that's the aha moment?
Right.
Because we don't see the world the way it is. We see the world the way that we are.
That's right.
And we really do believe that everybody thinks and behaves
One of the things I
yeah.
just feel the need to say that all the things you've mentioned to me, and I'm thinking about our own family experience, is a huge plug for family meals, because so many of the things that you mentioned, at least for us, occurred around a dinner table. These questions, like they say, that what they were learning at school, and then asking a question and trying to generate some curiosity. And anyway, creating space for these things to happen. You got to figure out as a family, what are going to be those spaces? My wife would probably say it was pick up from school. I mean, there were these conversations, pick up from school, but a huge one for us was family dinner. Are there any situations where, I mean, if someone's looking at their 17, 18-year-old, you would say, you may want to consider not going. This child is not ready for college. You think that's feasible?
Yeah. So let me take it a step back a little bit.
Okay.
I actually believe that every student, I know for every student who wants to go to college, there's a college. So what people may not know is there's 2,700 four-year institutions in the United States and about 1,700 two-year institutions. 90% of those schools take 50% of those who apply.
Okay.
There's a lid for every pot. Now, if you have a student that wants to go away to college, that's where there's red flags. If you have a student who's struggling and suffering with severe mental health or addiction, I would not encourage you to send your child to college. And I've had this conversation with many friends and many parents. I think the old way was like, let's throw the Hail Mary pass and hopefully they do okay.
Right. Hopefully they rise up.
I will tell you 90% of the time, it doesn't work that way. There may not just be, they may not be ready to go away to college. Not everybody's going to be ready to be flown at 18 years old. It might be 21 years old. It might be community college and then a direct connect program to UCF or to UF or FSU or even somewhere else. Or it might be going to school home, living home, being a commuter, and then graduate school somewhere else. I would strongly discourage people from taking that risk with your child's life. I strongly, strongly discourage. I have not seen it end up well 90% of the time. And I've been doing this for a long time. So that would be an example. Severe mental health that's unmanaged. If there's management program, if there's a support network, if the student can care, we kind of go into the care, they understand how to care for self and others, then it's a risk, but you have a plan. Severe drug or alcohol addiction, absolutely not. And unmanaged mental health.
Well, and then ideally, just to speak to this whole conversation, by being intentional earlier and upstream, hopefully you can avoid a situation where that was the case. Yeah, you had said earlier, had alluded to the fact that, and you feel this, there's so much emphasis on admission as opposed to what happens after admission. And I think you and I had said it before, but it's so analogous to the enormous amount of prep for a wedding, but not preparation for marriage, right?
Right.
And so really being intentional about preparing our kids for college that is more than SAT prep and make sure you do your essay and all these type of things that kind of tyranny of the urgent, these things that sort of demand your attention as a parent of a high schooler and just not letting the important but maybe seemingly less urgent slip off your radar.
Right. We spend so much time where they're going to go. We don't think about what they're going to do when they get there and how they're going to go. And the stat I told you, there are so many colleges and universities in the United States. So many people are chasing the rankings and chasing certain colleges for a number of reasons. Maybe their parent went to that college. From a financial standpoint, state institutions in Florida, if you do well academically in school, it's advantageous to go to a school in Florida, a state institution. But there are more, a couple things. I believe there's a lid for every pot. There's a college for every student. There are so many schools that you may have never heard of that are incredible institutions that just don't have name recognition. Regional regionally, people, I'm going to disclose something here. When I was in New York, I didn't know the difference between the University of Florida and Florida State. I had no idea. And I remember coming to Florida and saying, are they the same? That's embarrassing now. I've been here for 25 years. Yeah. But it's your world. I think regionally, you don't know. And regionally down in Florida, people don't know about the incredible regionally ranked institutions up in the Northeast or in the West or in the Midwest. Do your homework and your research. And I feel sad for families and children because I don't think that they're getting the right information. They're focusing on a select group of schools for a couple of different reasons, and they're not expanding their horizons to thinking about other ones. And it's creating a lot of undue stress. So I guess if your heart and soul is committed to a nationally ranked liberal arts college or a comprehensive research institution, you're going to have to do very well in your SAT and your ACTs, top of your class, great recommendations and a lot of involvement and a highly rigorous education. But that's not the formula for 90% of the colleges and universities in the country that are really good schools.
Yeah, and I think the other huge message that you've done such a good job with is that so much of the success is what you do once you get there.
Amen.
And there's a book that someone had recommended it to us when our oldest was applying the Frank Bruni, Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be.
That is correct.
I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if our kids ever opened it, but we had it out just because I wanted the title to be a message that they absorbed. That way more important than where you go is what you do once you get there. And that's not, anyway, I think I do. And some of this is the patients that we see. They feel like they're under so much pressure to get into this place. And if I don't, life is never going to be the same or something like, being dramatic.
There are schools in Florida that are test optional that are incredible institutions. Rollins is a test optional college. Students do submit their test scores, but we're test optional. And if you go online and just do a Google search on test optional colleges, there's a growing list that are test optional. And a lot of times these diamond schools, they attract a faculty that go there to teach. There's smaller class sizes. They're more intimate education. You see the deep learning and the direct application. The challenge is financial. The challenge is financial, but one thing I will share with you, if you haven't heard about the enrollment cliff before, because of the decline of birth rates and because of the decline of birth rates and because college going is stabilizing, there's not more students going to college. It's actually kind of stalling out. We're seeing the first impacts of the enrollment cliff because of the Great Recession in birth rates now. So less students are going to college. And by 2030, it's the cliff. It's going to hit. And we know it's going to hit till at least 2038 because of COVID birth rates. So you have so many colleges in the United States. You have less population. In Florida is growing in population because of migration, not because of birth. So you actually have college admission counselors who are regionally based living in Florida that are recruiting from schools outside of Florida. Because Florida, Texas, and California are increasing because of migration rates. The chances of your child going to college are going to continue to be increased and increased. The chances of your child going to a nationally ranked liberal arts college, an Ivy League school, or a regionally ranked, and we're talking like top 10 regionally ranked research institution, are becoming more selective. The whole college admission process is changing. And people talk to their neighbor whose kid went to college 5 years ago and listen to her, the mom's advice. Read as much as you can and don't believe everything that you hear. There's a college for every student, and there's such good colleges out there that you may never have heard of, but it's about what you do.
Yeah, preparing them to flourish.
It's about flourishing, and it's about doing internships. So 50% of students who are doing an internship right now are getting full-time employment. 50%. So the college might help you get that first job, but then it's where you go. Now, the networks of the Ivies, of the Dukes and the Wake Forest and the Vandy's. Those are incredible networks. The Samfords, these are incredible, incredible networks that are lifelong. But there's schools out there that have incredible networks too, that will be lifelong, and that you can become just or more successful because of what you do.
Anything else you want to say? We do have some rapid fire questions that we finish with that have nothing to do with what we said. Anything else that you would want parents, and again, maybe thinking of middle school or early high school parents, to walk away from this message with?
Yeah. It's exciting. Take the time to enjoy it, to love on your student, to love on your child. I say student, your child.
Right.
To learn alongside them, to not beat yourself up too much. It's an iterative learning process. You're not going to get it right. But if your child knows that they're loved and you're there for them when they need your help, it's going to be great.
And stay at it.
It's going to be great.
All right. Are you ready for some questions?
I'm ready.
All right. First thing that comes to mind as I say these things, we'll just kind of warm up. Coffee, soda, or tea?
Coffee.
All right. Favorite Winter Park restaurant?
Bosphorus.
Ah, nice. Best book you've read in the last year?
Ooh, I would say Let Them by Mel Robbins.
Yeah. Okay. Better grocery store, Publix or Wegmans?
Wegmans.
Okay.
Without a doubt. Do you shop at Wegmans?
My sister worked for a long time for Wegmans. My brother-in-law grew up in Jamestown.
Yes, that's by Fredonia, where I went to college.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and they just think nothing holds a candle to Wegmans.
Oh, nothing does.
It's true? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Better college mascot, a Blue Devil or a Tar?
Ooh, that's hard for me. I'm going to say a Blue Devil.
Do you want to take a minute and explain what a tar is?
Yeah, a tar is a sailor.
A sailor.
Yeah.
Nickname for a sailor.
A nickname for a sailor. There were World War I ships in Lake Virginia. And the soldiers would be on the boats and would wave to the co-eds on the Rollins campus. And so that's how Rollins became the Tars.
Great. And I think I read there is no other school with that mascot.
That could be right.
Yeah.
Right. There's Tar Heels, which are different.
Right. Very different.
Tars.
Yeah. Best dining option on the Rollins campus?
Ooh, the marketplace for sure. And just something can know. Anybody can go. You just need a credit card and it's all you can eat. And it's the favorite place of the hyper-local 60-plus residents in Winter Park because they go and they meet after pickleball and they eat there. The best meal in town.
And it's called what?
The marketplace. It's in our campus center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something referred to as Tarpotle?
There is. Tarpotle is in the Cornell Social Science Center.
Okay.
And it's our version of Chipotle.
Okay.
The students call Tarpotle.
Great.
Good research.
Yeah, you seem pretty high on the dining options at Rollins.
It's so great.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the best food. We're usually ranked in the top schools of most beautiful campus and best food and best teaching.
That's a good combo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question. If you could magic wand any one-word character trait into every freshman at Rollins, what would that one-word character trait be?
Openness.
Nice. I want to expand on it at all?
Yeah, I think that people hold themselves back because of lack of confidence and fear. But if they were just open and curious about the possibilities, they would attract so much.
Yeah, and that really speaks to that sixth trait of the college happiness, flourishing, or whatever. It was this, whatever you said made me think of taking the setting you're in and expanding it.
Exactly.
Experiencing more of it. Openness. That's good. Micki Meyer, thank you so much for being here with us. But as a parent and as a pediatrician, it is just so encouraging to know there are people like you on the other side of that handoff. I hope there are a bunch of people like you. I hope people that are being creative as far as thinking through what engagement, not just taking this kid and giving a diploma, but engaging them and consciously preparing them for what's next. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you for having me.
Stay at it and keep doing great work.
Thank you, Dr. Middleton.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.